What you not?
Good things. It's like Christmas morning.
Gather around the campfire. There's stories to be told. This is Job Praise Whitewater. I'm your host, Nick Turner, for this celebration of whitewater kayaking and the legends who've shaped the sport. Job Praise Whitewater is supported by Kayak Session Magazine. You may think you get the full story looking through social media and seeing the clips, but there's just something about holding actual paper in your hand and seeing that the sport's really going off and the people out there are on amazing expeditions and doing amazing things. So pick up a copy of Kayak Session if you get a chance. Go website, sign up. Strawberries Whitewater is also proud to support American Whitewater. Now, if kayaking whitewater has a soul, then American Whitewater is right there at that soul, opening up runs, supporting the sport, there from day one. And really, I don't know of any sport that really has an organization that's so true to its core and such a proponent as American Whitewater. So sign up for that if you're not signed up yet. And we now have some Rush Sturgis material at the end of every episode. So instead of just ending now, we're going to go into some Rush. Beautiful music. Look it up online in any streaming service. You need to type in RUSHSTURGES. Full thing, type it in. All right, really a true pleasure to have today Charlie Munsey. Guy who, just based on river running alone, is really a whitewater legend. So many iconic runs around the globe have his fingerprints on it, from North Fork of the Paya. I'm not even sure if to this day someone has more runs on it than Charlie. Up to the Stikine, he and Conrad just drove up there and did, I think, something like the fourth descent. At the time their names actually looked kind of out of place on the chalkboard at Site Zed, because it was all legends like Lesser and Ammons. And then Charlie hooked up with Scott Lindgren and really did many iconic expeditions around the globe. A lot of the High Sierra multi-day classics and all around the Himalayas, including during that first race for the Tsangpo. Charlie and Scott just went on and put on the Tsangpo at high water to float into it, and still, that footage is some of the most terrifying I think I've seen. I remember getting sick to my stomach the first time I saw that, the exposure of it. But Charlie did a lot more than that. He brought along a camera and really captured a lot of iconic era of expedition paddling, and really his images inspired the era. And so it's great to have you along, Charlie. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into kayaking?
Well, thanks for the kind intro, and you got my heart going a little bit talking about that Tsangpo trip. That's definitely a scary one. How did I get started? Basically, I went to the same high school as Brian Tooley, who was on the U.S. Wildwater team, and Brian Tooley went to my high school, and he would teach roll sessions and swimming pools, and my best friend in high school got me to go out, and we just kind of fell in love with it pretty quick. We were skiers, did a lot of skiing and crazy stuff like that. So it just kind of fit in. Had no idea though that it would be so life-changing, but it was fortunate that it worked out that way. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Tooley, what a name to bring up. He was really around a long time. So then did you guys start kayaking around the area? Where was that?
Yeah, so that was in Eugene, Oregon. And, we just didn't have a lot of instruction. We would go out there and kind of learn things the hard way a little bit. And it's not super intuitive in the beginning and I guess through the whole thing. But, yeah, we just did stuff in Oregon, and then started going to rodeos, met legends like Rob Lesser and Bob McDougall and Jeff Guerin, the old guard, and listened to their stories. And then eventually, as a skier, we went to Idaho and Sun Valley, we were into mogul skiing and that stuff, and then the Payets were just over the mountain, and so we found ourselves there, and then that really changed, I think, everything.
Yeah, there's so much around Eugene. I mean, there's just so many classic rivers and just so much whitewater. I remember when coming from the Mountain West, it's so few and far between, and you get out to that coast and it just runs everywhere with a lot of water.
Yeah, for sure, rains all year, and but we mainly kayaked in the summer, spring, and skied in the winters. Not like they do so much now, 300 plus days a year. We didn't do that, but yeah, definitely, and just the the legends that were in the area before us that shared their stories. That's pretty unforgettable stuff. That is very attractive. Yeah.
Did you go to that Bob's Hole rodeo in 93, 94? That was kind of seemed like the first iconic one where everyone came together of kind of the next generation after Lesser, of all the Porn and Gavir and EJ and everybody.
Right. Right. I started going to that probably in 87, 88, 89, 90, and a little bit. I mean, definitely, Jeff Guerin was the man for sure in those days. Not a lot of people know about Jeff, but definitely one of the best paddlers ever. Incredible athlete. And Brian Tooley was out there. Bob McDougall, just, a lot of stars. Rick Williams. And Woody would even come out for those. He pretty much dominated the whole squirt scene, and just a great group of mentors that you run into out there. And I kind of got into play boating through that. I think that's great for your skills and stuff, but it would be later and before I started, trying to take on harder stuff. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't take long to come across a waterfall in the Pacific Northwest when you start kayaking.
Right. Well, we were in Mirages and Dancers, so it was there weren't a lot of waterfalls, I can remember even in the mid 90s, the world record was like 60 feet. Sean Baker in Iceland, I think. Waterfall of the Thieves. And so that just wasn't, but it was intriguing, and wow, how it's ever exploded. And then I was going to say with Bob's too, and Corin, and just a lot of talent definitely coming out. And so yeah, those were good years, sure.
The energy just building and building. I mean, probably from 87 through the mid 90s, just felt like
like
a surge.
Right. I really enjoyed it. I love play boating and stuff. I didn't ever feel like super competitive in play boating. It's just as far as wanting it. I like to go out there and have fun and hang out with friends and stuff, but that's what I got most out of it. The competition side. I think you really have to want it to consistently, finish in the top 2 or 3. But yeah, it was good. And then then over on the Payets, there's some great play spots over there. The old pirouette stuff and 720s, and they don't make the boats that can do that stuff anymore. But man, those were when you could do those 30-foot downstream 720s out of the water in a big dancer or whatever. That was always pretty awesome.
And so were you hanging out in Idaho before you kind of started hearing about things like the Little White in Oregon?
Yeah, I can't remember when the Little White came in to being known as a whitewater run. Yeah, I had already been to the Himalayas. I had done, lots of runs in Idaho and the North Fork and stuff. And then came over. I did it with the Kerns, I think, the first time. Chuck and Willie and Scott and Johnny Kern. And that was definitely, the nature of it was like a little smaller volume than the North Fork. Now this isn't like at 5 or 6 feet on the Little White. This was like 3 or 4 feet. And so, but the Spirit Falls was good, and something new that we hadn't had a lot of experience with, or at least I didn't. Yeah.
Willie just told that story of Spirit Falls, of getting there with your whole crew and having the debate if you should boof it or if you should just melt it, like be like the driftwood. And he said you peeled off first, you ran it first, and you just kind of melted it like the driftwood, and that's where they came up with the name of Driftwood Productions for Scott's company.
That could be true. I don't know. I think maybe that was 94. I can't remember, but I mean, I wasn't a waterfall runner, but I knew people would hurt their backs, and so I was like, and that's kind of been my theory, really. If I'm going to run a falls, I got to be able to melt it. And the Oregon Tuck thing kind of came around, but huge respect for those that can fly through at different angles and just get it 2 inches off, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't even remember. I remember that day. I don't remember going first, but I knew I was in good company with the Kern brothers and, Scott and all that. We had a good time.
In those early days with Thule, you remember a certain run where you kind of really, I don't know, just felt like, wow, we've stepped across the line or really are in it now?
Yeah, I didn't boat a lot with Brian then. It just at Bob's. But definitely probably the first time that happened is we got to, I think we'd paddled a year and a half total, and we got to the North Fork. Started at the bottom, driving up. It all looked good from the road driving, right? So we go right to the top, put on. And then, by the time we got to the first rapid, we'd already rolled 3 or 4 times. It was crazy, and it all looks the same once you're on the river. It looks manageable from the road driving up, but then we took out and we went down and put on below Jacob's Ladder, and then out of the woods came Marcus Schmidt, a German paddler that was really a solid paddler back in those days, and he asked us if he could join us, and yeah, he saved us. He saved me and my buddy through Jaws and all that, and steered us through, and then from then on, just slowly started learning it through others, following people like Mark White out of Salt Lake was a huge mentor. He was a great, and Roy Piscato and him, and then Tony Brennan, Rob and Doug Ammons, and just the crew that was up there. Sometimes they would let us follow them. Sometimes they wouldn't. They thought we were, a little loose probably, but I'm grateful that they took us under their wing and showed us the lines. Normally, I don't like. I mean, I kind of have. I normally like to tell people not. I prefer to do a river without someone that knows it the first time, but I think the North Fork is one of those that is good to follow somebody.
That's funny. You guys really were just kind of nipping at their heel, like the little pups nipping at them's heels.
Yeah, we were a little. Yeah, just not as experienced, and didn't. But over time, you put your time in there and you get it figured out, and then they really they want you along, and it's a good time. Yeah,
you earn the respect
one way or the other, I guess. If you hang in there.
Once your name's on that chalkboard at Site Zed, they gotta respect you after that.
Yeah, that was definitely a crazy chapter in my life, and still best days of my life. That first run, it's always right there with me.
And so you and Conrad, just like you've heard the tales, obviously, like those guys came back and said, this is the one, this is the most ultimate, there's the movie and everything, and you two decided to make the drive and go put on.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in, everything was focused around the obsession with that river, and it was scary. I mean, there was a lot of mystery in that river at that time, and the films that were made were always, showed some crazy stuff going on, and no guarantees. And yeah, Conrad and I paddled a lot on the North Fork that summer, and just decided to go do it. And we got up there, and it was 15,000 almost. And you said fourth self-support. Well, fourth descent. It's actually the fourth self-support descent. But then if you add Doug's solo, it's the fifth. In '92, he soloed it. But I say team descent. But yeah, and then went back in '95 with Scott Lundgren and Jerry Moffat, and then in '98 did it with Rob Lesser and Jerry and Wink and Scott and Doug. And anyway, that was all three times. It's been at different levels. It's kind of good to see the different moods in there, but definitely the high water first time is going to be pretty profound.
High water, yeah, first time and just the two of you, right?
Yeah,
that long drive of butterflies in your stomach for 3 days just getting there.
Yeah, Conrad was in a dancer, I was in an overflow, and it was like 300 miles of dirt road. They hadn't paved it all the way, and it was raining and cold the whole time, but we didn't care. We were just actually, the scary thing about that is on day 2, I shoved my ammo can through the bottom of my boat and didn't have any way to repair it except duct tape. And so I had to empty before and after every rapid, in my mind, I was going to sink. So it was scary. And we got to the takeout, it was pretty incredible that we made it, I felt. And we didn't tell anybody. We dropped in. We didn't have spots. We didn't have any backup, so it was that kind of commitment is, I mean, I appreciate being able to have somebody come in and rescue you, but when you don't have that, it definitely adds something to the trip that's special,
So, you guys were giving her, that's for sure.
Got to send it a couple times, right? Sometimes, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah, think about doing that in a dancer.
Oh, I know. Me too. That's just like a train in there, trying to turn it and stuff. But I was told you should go in there with the boat you're most comfortable in, as if it doesn't really matter. You can stay online, and of course, I know these new boats, the way they surface and everything. That's pretty. An overflow plug though, with 70 pounds, 80 pounds of gear, whatever, you just missile through everything. But you definitely get stopped probably more. Yeah.
Nice. And was that when Conrad ran V Drive on that first trip, or was that later on?
No, that was in 2000, 2001. He came back. V Drive hadn't been run then. And Conrad and I stopped at V Drive for an hour trying to figure out how we were going to climb around it. And man, I was like, I will never come here again. Actually, the first 2 times I went there, I said that at V Drive, because you're so stuck, you're stuck if you don't run it. And we had to self-belay. We had to belay onto a rock right below the big fault, the hole, and get back in our boats, water crashing over our heads and undercut rocks below us and walls, and push off. And it was dicey. It was a great escape, I call it, when I get down to that. Yeah, but Conrad, I mean, he was so solid. I was so fortunate to have him in there. He's a good climber, and you need those kind of skills when you go into a place like that, for sure. So yeah, the Stikine, and none of it could have been done without those that went before us, and so much respect for all those guys in 81, 85.
Yeah. Conrad is definitely a legend gone too soon, and on the run he knew so well.
Right. Yeah. No, it was a heartbreaker for me, for sure. It was, there's no words. There's no words, but I was so grateful to spend the time I did with him, and No, I don't. I can't really share the intimate details of that trip with anybody because he's gone, or reminisce about it with him. Which, but I do think about it and a lot. And again, just such a humble, mellow guy, super smart guy too. The physicist and good athlete. And yeah, West Virginia guy. Somehow he got into big water, or maybe they have big water back there.
Yeah, literally no one else on earth knows what went on that first trip. Now we learned that you punched your box through your boat and had to duct tape it for the second one.
Yeah, yes. We only had like a little duct tape, and I mean it was definitely. I mean, we're sitting there. I'm like, Conrad, I think I'm just gonna hike out of here and get our spare boat, and I'll solo day one again, and I'll meet you here. Or I'm gonna hike out, and you can go and finish it. And he's like, no, I think you'll be okay. It's like I think you'll be okay, and it worked out that way. But I was taking on water for sure, and you know, it was. I probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for his encouragement. Kept going because, gosh, we were at the bottom of Site Zed the morning of day 2, where you have to push off, do this huge ferry in front of this bad wall. The water's pushing. It used to, and so I just had visions of steel launching and just going up to my neck in water and it'd be done. So it was scary. It gave me PTSD, I think, for a while, a little bit.
Well, just so long of not being able to relax, right? I think that's a feeling that you don't get much, right? Even that drive, you're not relaxed, but then once you're on, right, it's constant, intense butterflies for multiple days, and then each challenge, like BDI, Site Zed is just another, like, can we make it over this crest? It's almost like climbers, trying to get to the top, and all of a sudden there's another place to turn back. Like you said, you got to make sure it's always that back of your mind. Oh, just get out of here. You can shit. Like when I was talking with Shannon, she was talking about the place she goes or something when you're in that. And I was like, I do the same. There's people right now sitting on their couch watching TV. I could just be one of those people right now. I'm not stuck in this canyon.
Right. That's something, I really, with the exception of the first trip, wanted to go in there and be able to spend like 5 or 6 days, 7 days. But man, after 3 days, I've always been ready to get out of there. But yeah, what a special place. And, just so much respect. There's so much mystery then, and just the rockfall can kill you. There's so many things that can get you in there that you just can't, relax, much. And there were multiple times we sat and looked at some things for an hour, like the wall. You can't walk around it. You got to run it, and it looks horrible. Can't really see the bottom. We had half a sheet of notes, but we forgot them in the car. So we had nothing, it was just like, gosh, but that made it better in the end,
Always.
Yeah, super trip.
And you emerge out the bottom with someone like that on a trip like that. You're brothers for life after that experience together.
For sure. Conrad's such an amazing man. I always loved that guy, and I give him credit for saving my life a few times, just on ropes and however, so special guy.
Definitely. And so I guess that was that white salmon trip when you kind of met up with Lindgren and the Kern brothers and that crew. Was that first time or?
No, Scott came over in '91, I think, and guided at Cascade Raft Company on the Payets, and that's how I got to know Scott, is working with him as a guide, and then we paddled most nights after work on the Payet and formed a good friendship and paddling partnership there, and went to the Himalayas '92, I think, something like that. And so I had known Scott well. I hadn't known the Kerns, Yeah, and I've always thought if you can do the little white, come down it without rolling, and kind of do the whole thing, I think you're in pretty good kayaking shape. It felt like it to me. I didn't feel like, wouldn't like the North Fork at 4,000, but still. But I know, I see what they do now. When it's raging in there, and definitely, I haven't been in that kind of shape since they've been doing that kind of stuff. But I would have liked to have tried it, back then, just to see how it compares.
Yeah, stilt is a good point. Still to this day, if you can go run the North Fork top to bottom clean and go run the Little White clean, you're a Class 5 kayaker.
I guess, yeah, whatever that means. Everybody has their own rating system, I think, but yeah, it's good to know yours, right?
Well, I mean, you're solid, right? If you can do both of those, like that's pretty much two of the out west, the two most iconic stepping stones before you get into multi-day stuff, kind of.
Yeah, and then, well, yeah, and then of course the California kind of stuff, which is, super technical and steep. And I didn't do a lot of that. I went down and visited Scott and did some of the stuff down there, but by no means what the most difficult stuff. And I don't think the North Fork really prepares you too well for some of those, the Royal Gorge and stuff like that. So if you can get both of those under your belt, I think you pretty much go anywhere. But yeah, we focused on the bigger water feel, and so yeah, that was the.
Where did you and Scott kind of first go overseas to?
I invited Scott to come over to Nepal in '92, I believe it was, and we just did kind of basic rivers through there, and found some first descents that hadn't been done, like the Tuliberry, some of those, and so we started working on that. And then in '86, Bob McDougall told me, the ultimate trip in the world would be, well, one of them would be to do the Tsangpo Gorge. So that's what planted that seed in my head. I got out. Just the big volume of the botanist, Kingdon Ward. He was the guy that went in there in 1924, 25, 26, and named all the rhododendrons and was looking for those waterfalls in the middle. So there's a book that's like this thick, and so there were just some old black and white photos in there, and just that stayed with me. Then I learned that the four rivers, that come off Kailash, that was one of them, and then that kind of started that chapter. And went back and did like the Carnally, which is one of them, with Shane and Bob Beasley, Shane Benedict, yeah, and those guys are great. We had a great time.
Did you put in at Simcoe for that, or?
We did. Flew in. I flew in Nepal, got a call, and they said, "Hey, you want to join us?" I didn't even know them, and they were older than me, more experienced, and just hilarious guys to hang out with. And I think we got the first American descent. I think the third descent from Semicot, and then later went back with Scott and Willie and them and put on at the border, and did the upper 50 miles that hadn't been done. And that was great just because, we got to go around Mount Kailash first. And so that was a dream trip as well. Yeah.
That is a dream trip for sure.
Super
go around Kailash and put in.
Yeah, that's a special. So it's just timeless out there, and really, it seems way out there. Yeah, it seems way out there. But actually, I think green slime, Peter Knowles, that wrote the Nepal guidebook. He wrote that in there. The most amazing trip would be to drive from Kathmandu to Kailash, go around it, come down, and then put on Karnali. So that kind of stuck with me too, and just try to make my way to those things that people had shared that I really respect, and so I've been fortunate that people have shared some of the things they knew about the older guard and rivers that hadn't been maybe done before, and turned us on to that.
Yeah, that's amazing that McDougall first planted that seed in '86. Tsangpo. So what are the other? So after the Karnali, which one was next on the four that drain?
Well, we did. We did the first ascent of the Tule Berry. We at that point, so I was, gosh, that was 99. I was 32, but I had acquired some major injuries by then. So I really started stepping back and felt like my future was going to be more photography related. And I could paddle and I could get down into a lot of places, but some things I just I think we'd gone so hard in that time that I didn't feel compelled as much. The two left were the Sutlej and the Indus in Pakistan. At that time, there was a lot going on with Al Qaeda and Taliban, stuff like that. That was sketchy to be in that area. And I know Scott and Mikey Abbott and Alan Eller went over there and did that stuff. And I mean, I knew about the Indus. Jerry Moffitt and those guys, Mamby, they all did it in '89, I think, something like that. And it definitely looked huge. Wish that was more open when I was, in my mid-20s, something like that.
Was Moffitt who kind of introduced you to Nepal?
Yeah, I mean, I think Moffitt probably had more of an impact on my kayaking career than anybody. I mean, he's such a legend, and I knew him in late '80s, and yeah, definitely taught me a lot about expedition-oriented stuff in the Himalayas and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Willie talked about how the Europeans were kind of ahead for sure in a lot of it. That influence was like we talked about Marcus Schmidt on North Fork, but they were definitely had a bit of a jump start.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know a ton about those about European kayaking, but definitely Mamby and Jerry and those guys were there early, and Slime, Peter Knowles, and I can't remember the guy. Who's the guy that lives in New Zealand? Murchison, or who I'm
talking about?
Yeah.
Mick Thompson?
Mick Hopkins.
Mick Hopkins,
yeah. So yeah, they got out there and did it. I think Mick and Slime were on the first ascent of the Karnali, and then some Italians or something. Yeah, I just wasn't able to keep up with it, but certainly a lot of. And then if you go back and you look at Blakadar, he was probably ahead of them in ways as far as what he did in his kayaking to kind of kick off the modern kayaking. And of course Robin and Wasson and all those guys had a big impact. And Lars, so much respect for Lars. There's just I don't think that's changed a lot, the spirit and the athletic ability. I mean, I don't know, look at Dane Jackson, for sure. He's so amazing. Stuff we would never have conceptualized. But as far as the athleticism, I think it's been there. So much technology probably has helped in ways, and it all building on what was done before, right? But
technology is an assistance for each generation, right? Each generation can kind of push it a little more for the technology. What's amazing is how each new generation has so much respect for the previous ones, like even all these kids doing the Stikine these days, they just have so much respect for everyone that came before.
Yeah, I'm happy that where kayaking's gone and the torch it's been passed, and the respect, and really good group of young paddlers, those in their 20s, 30s now, just all along, just very respectful, and I think carry the kind of approach and that is befitting of the sport for sure. Yeah.
Sure. And so did you go down and work for Equator there for Jerry in Nepal some seasons?
Oh, I'd go over and just do a couple trips here and there. Once you get over there, it's like, I don't want to guide. I want to go kayak and go find these new things. And yeah. So, and at that time, the paddles, I think, were wooden, a lot of them, and the gear was outdated, but definitely learned some stuff doing those trips and met people from around the world, but didn't do a lot of that. Not the best place to make money as a guide,
Yeah. But I do tell kids all the time, like, if you want to go somewhere and just do a lot of classic rivers for cheap, just go safety kayak for one of those companies in Nepal. You can tag along on 10-day Sun Cozy, Helen Dundaki. Unfortunately, Karnali is getting damned, but just so many, and great trips you can just go on.
Right. No, for sure. And we would safety boat for them sometimes in the beginning, just to see the rivers and get support, boat support or whatever. But
you will also have diarrhea on a 12-hour bus ride in Nepal. That's guaranteed.
Oh man, I don't want to think about that. Those bus journeys are the hardest part by far. The 18-hour overnight on top. Yeah, those are definitely an adventure in themselves. For sure.
So from the Sun Cozy, right? You put in looking at Everest and take out on just the dead flat plain of India. Wow, right. That last canyon you come through, and then all of a sudden it's flat as a pancake.
Yeah, the Terai, and yeah, the probably the most dangerous part of the whole expeditions are the bus rides and the helicopter rides, and that kind of stuff. Later, we started flying a little more, and those little hoppers came around and flying. But you got to do the bus rides. You got to put in your time. And
what were some of your favorites in Nepal?
Rivers or bus rides?
Rivers.
Oh, they're all different. I mean, definitely the Karnali and the Tuliberry and the Modi Kola and the Timur, the Tomba Cozies, which is a what do you call it? It flows into the Sun Cozy. And that one, they all, I mean, the monsoon stops in late September. So if you want to find your limit, you can go out there in late September, and all those rivers, especially the hard ones, are going to be six plus, like rocking, So it's kind of when you get on them, I think that, and at the end of the day, they can all shut you down. Maybe not the Sun Cozy because it's pretty flat, and Kaligandaki and some of those raftable ones, but the kayaking ones, they're all, they definitely get into the 6+ range when they're blowing high and post monsoon. Yeah. What else? I can't. Yeah, the Bleffy Cola, the Upper Sun Cozy. Those were, great. There's just so many there. There's a few I didn't get to do that I would have liked to have done. Maybe the Rune. That's supposedly a good one, and they've probably found more since we were in there in Google Earth and all that. But good place to go. You do pay, I guess, health wise a little bit with all the surrounding stuff going in the river and that, but the experience in general, and the way to see a culture and see how things have been for thousands of years in many places. I think that's the reward. Kayak has been more of a vessel to experience that, and so
yeah, you get those way out there spots like around Simcoe. It's literally Stone Age, It's some of those places, those villages, like, yeah, would have been no different just about 1,000 years ago, other than the T-shirt and flip flops.
For sure, yeah. There's places they don't have those.
Yeah,
for sure.
The mats. Did you see the guys that they would just have that giant sewn like poncho thing out of reeds?
Nothing else.
Or shorts and flip flops.
A lot of them just go barefooted too. They're a lot of
these guys actually didn't have shoes. I remember, and they had to like find them shoes for when it got snow. But
right,
yeah,
we bought our porters shoes one time because they were going to have to go over this gnarly pass with our boats and stuff. And we get up there and they're barefooted trying to come down this, and we're like, what do you guys, and they were going to sell them at the next village for money, right? just so tough. And they didn't care about the shoes. So just a lot to learn from those people. And so amazing with how little they have, how happy they are. And, a lot to learn from those people.
Yeah. I think what people don't understand about Nepal too is how little the roads penetrate, right? And how many people live where you walk to, right? I mean, most people, you walk a day, you walk 2 days, you walk 2 weeks. There's still villages everywhere.
Right.
These people live like, even if you're jogging, it's going to be like 4 days till you get to a road.
Right. I think that's changing. I've heard that's changing, like a lot of places we'd have to walk in for 2 weeks or fly into now there's roads. So I think that's slowly, but you're right. You get way out there and you're on your own. There's no, there's no rules. It seems like, and we've come across that in good ways and bad ways, and you never know what you're going to get. It's part of the adventure, I guess. But I think they're all intrigued by, people going down these rivers and these things, and so they usually give you the benefit of the doubt and try to help you.
You ever run into the Maoists there when they were strong?
Probably, but I don't think they really gave us, any, if they wanted $5 for their cause, I don't think that was an issue. Definitely ran into some villagers that had kind of a local tyrant that would contain us, take our boats, want money, threaten us. And so those are the situations that you don't know how it's going to work out. But it's funny, they'll get distracted and you literally sometimes just sneak out. And once you're on the water, they can't get you anymore, right? We've had a few of those happen. And,
really? How did they get your boats?
Well, if you're hiking up with your porters and all that, you come to a village, then they'll detain you and take your boats and do all that, right? And,
tell me about it.
Huh?
Tell me the story.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, gosh, me and Guy Robbins, he's an English guy. He was a legend back there too. That was Jerry's mate that started Equator with David Allardyce. And we came into a village and this guy was whipping these people with a big whip, and he demanded that we put our stuff down, our gear, and told us that our passports didn't look right and we were going to have to leave our boats and go back to Kathmandu and get them and come back. And we were already like 10 days into this walking, you know. It was crazy. And then he got these men to follow us down the river, down this steep hill, maybe 500 feet, and they were slow. And so we got to the bottom and just got in our boats, and we were, 2 miles downstream before they knew what hit them. And not the first time. I mean, I've pulled over thinking they were friendly, and they grabbed my bow loop and told me that they were the police and that, I needed, usually you just splash them with your paddle real quick and they'll let go, and then you're back in the middle of the river and you're canyon downstream before they can catch you. But I don't think I've had, with the exception of what you saw on the Tsangpo film with those porters that are farmers, but that was probably the most intense kind of standoff that I've seen. That was a little crazy. Scott, I always remember Scott's brother on that. He looks at me and he's like, I can take 13 of these guys. How about you? And I'm like, that's Dustin Lindgren, Scott's brother. And he's a tough guy. He's like, I can take 13 of these guys. How about you? And I'm like, Dustin, they got a knives and a gun. We have nothing, Not that we would want it to go that far anyway, but you just never know, Things have happened out there in history that haven't ended well. So you got to play it pretty conservative, I think, and usually give them what they want. I think that's, the way to ensure survival. Yeah.
No. Be peaceful. But you usually can see that you got nothing going on as a kayaker. But it is suspicious, right? People are like, what is this bright thing? It arises suspicion.
Yeah, well, yeah. And when you're in China, I mean, everything does. If you're out in those places and you're, I've been detained every time I've been there for something, some kind of spy oriented thing. And that's always been tricky. You don't know how those are going to end because so much they can fabricate on you. I think that's a scary thing sometimes.
Yeah. Where did you paddle over there in China?
Well, I mean, when we did the Tsangpo, the Tsangpo, the Upper Karnali, Kailash, that area, that's when we were subjected to different types of getting detained, usually a week. Put you in a place for a week and put people around you and just watch you. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's tough when they can just fabricate stuff on you, I can only imagine where that could end up, go. So, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how.
And so did they just detain you in a house in China, or did they actually put you in a center?
They usually put you in a little motel or a hotel compound or something. And yeah, something like that. Not always, but it seems like that's suspicion is always there. Yeah. Funny you mentioned that Tsangpo. That's definitely probably the biggest water I've been in. When Scott and I did that in 97 or 98. That was definitely pretty exposed and, just blowing downstream. It's funny, I'd physically ran down the trail the night before. It all looked like class 3+. Get back in the boats next morning and it's huge. I guess that just happens. I mean, I know things look smaller from afar, but I wasn't that far off the river. But yeah, we made a good choice of getting off the river that day. You see that thirst video, and really right below where we got off, it was really gonna drop, and it was we wouldn't have made it. So no regrets about that.
And so I'm sure you and Scott had been talking about the Tsangpo for years and years and years since you heard about it from McDougal. But then did you hear that group from the east was going, and that kind of, you guys were like, hey, we gotta make our move, or did it just kind of happen? Both expeditions were planned that first attempt.
Yeah, I think somehow they found out we were going to go in December, and then I think they moved their trip up. I could be totally wrong, but out of nowhere they were with National Geo, and then they went in August or October or something when it was still pretty high. And I mean, at that level, it's kind of what Scott and I saw. It's just 50,000 instead of 20,000 or something like that, and so. Yeah, that was so unfortunate, and I mean, it takes so much. I mean, until 1993, no Westerner had even walked through that gorge since Kenyon Ward did in 25 or 26. So it just, paddling through there and the problems that it presented, getting over the pass with your boats and all that just seemed. And then when we were going to sneak it many times, that's the only way we thought we could do it. And even with permits in 2002 with the big expedition, we had to stop at every checkpoint, and they looked at all our permits constantly. Still had to pay off guards. Still had to be buying everybody off the whole way, and so I don't think anybody's going to be able to snake in there. That's for. Yeah.
On that first one, you and Scott just flew into Lhasa, got a car, and just drove there and put in?
No, Steve Curry Expeditions out of Utah. He did trips all over the world, raft trips, and somehow he got a contact that let him and Mark Smith. I think he's an old first guy to do the Congo, 3,200 miles in '74. I guess there's some old experience there. Anyway, Scott and I, they invited us to go over to kind of scout for them to see if it was reasonably runnable rafting. Right. So that gave us the opportunity to do the first ascent. And we were there at the put in. We had the whole thing in front of us, good to go. And it was running 50 or 60,000. And right there, it's 13 feet a mile. The put in, and it looked huge, five plus. And then it was about to go up to 40 feet a mile, 100 feet a mile, and then 300 feet a mile in the middle. I mean, there's just no way, it was a one-way ticket. So as much as it was just our dream and just wanted it so bad, it just wasn't an option. It wasn't an option. So we went around and did that tributary, which was equally as big, and but just a little more, I guess. I think we did maybe 10 miles or something like that of it, and got out. But it's just, you got to do those things on the river's terms. If you try to inject your, I guess, well, especially maybe ego, but if you try to inject, how you want it to be, the river is gonna probably make the final decision on a lot of that stuff. So I guess that's the game, is really figuring out what is manageable and what's not, and is it really worth it? Is it worth going 10 miles and then having to hike out 200, or is it better just to come back when it's doable? So yeah, those were good times.
That's a living adventure. So had you guys moved your trip up because those guys were going earlier?
No, they did theirs. I mean, I don't know what year they did it. Ours was in 2002. We might have waited a whole year, but we did it in February 2002. They did it in August, October of 2000 or 2001. Yeah. There was just too many things to work out still, for us. But Wick, he seems like a genius out there and an outdoors adventure. And Jamie, and I know those guys had a lot of experience, so I think it was just in the end, it's just so powerful. Getting yeah, so that was a definitely highlight highlight of adventure. Yeah, just so cool to go there.
Has so much lore, right? From the Kintup, the monk, that was supposed to the British couldn't even figure out, where it drained, which river it went into in India, and the monk went out there to send those, but then got imprisoned and couldn't put the logs in for a year or something.
Kintup went out there and he cut down 1,000 logs and sent them down and had somebody waiting, and they may have made it. They probably made it. I don't know how long it would take, but we had, there's this thing called Kintup Falls is right in the middle of the gorge, and there's an old monastery there that Chinese said an earthquake took down, but I don't think so. I think it was knocked down. But anyway, we weren't supposed to go to that place, and we did, and it was pretty desecrated. But on the satellite map, we had this picture of Kintup Falls, and it just looked like this swoosh of white. And when you can see a rapid from space, even a little wisp, it's going to be big. But this thing was, it was 80 yards wide. It probably dropped 40 feet, and it was just a ramp. And Kintup Falls, yeah, that was really cool to finally stand there and look at it and see it. And the place is always changing, but yeah, a lot of history there. And then King Ward and trying to find the falls, and Ken Storm Jr., who was a National Geo guy, he found the falls. He's the one given credit for finding the falls. That's a longer story.
Trip?
That's a longer story. No, he found it in 97. He found it in 97. And there's some politics in this, but basically they wanted to I think they wanted to, I shouldn't get it. It's just the way it was published was maybe not, I don't think, as accurate as it could have been. But needless to say, Ken did find it. And long story short, he flew to Scotland and found King Ward's widow, who was in her 90s, and brought her some rocks from the falls. She said, well, I'm glad Keenan left you something to find. And he took Keenan's ashes back on our trip and buried them there at the falls. And just some real cool, history that is a big part of that place. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so after all that, you guys decided, all right, the way to do this is kind of old school British style and break out the Dave Allardyce big guns. And yeah, you battled with the Mikey and Alan over there in the Himalayas before?
Have we battled with them?
Yeah, had you been
paddled? Paddled.
Yeah, with Mikey and Al.
No, I hadn't, but Scott had. I did. I think I did do one thing with Mikey. I can't remember, but Scott went and did the suitwage with them, and so that's when he knew they were solid, and he wanted them on the Tsangpo trip, and their knowledge of expedition. And Mikey, man, definitely one of the top boaters in the world that time. By far, he paddled so strong on the Tsangpo and took the lead at times when the team needed it. I mean, they all did that in ways, But huge respect for those guys. Yeah, they had a good crew. And I originally planned on paddling it, but I could just tell. I was gonna be probably more of a liability. And then also I was shooting for outside photography, and you always get so much better pictures when you're not scared. and and so I just had to make that decision, and that was okay. I was injured, as I said, and boy, you have to be just strong to run 5+, get out, walk 500 feet up, come right back down, make another 5+ move that's critical, and then do that all day. That's you got to be strong. Got to have a good back at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
But you and Scott's kind of personalities got along well to go. It was a good match for kind of his sort of intensity, I suppose, and your mellowness.
Is that? Yeah, I've heard people say that. Scott and I have never had any issues from the start. Sometimes we'll both be like feeling a little worn out or whatever, but at the end, Scott and I have always just shown each other a lot of grace with our imperfections, and been able to support and get each other, and pretty much laugh the whole way. We got a similar sense of humor, I think, and so I, Scott has always had my back, and I've had his as well. So it's been a great friendship.
Yeah, and so how did you guys kind of pick that team for the Tsangpo? I guess the team makes perfect sense. It's pretty much the all-star team you would pick exactly for that mission. But
yeah, he did it. He picked a great team. There's nobody on there that was, not deserving of giving that thing a shot. And I kind of encouraged him to bring Ken Storm along, Ken Storm Jr., because he had been in there and walked through it before, and it's so easy to get lost in there. I thought that would be a good asset. But yeah, Scott picked them all out, and I was so fortunate that he asked me to come along and said, you can kayak it, you can photograph it, you can do whatever you want. For me, I just wanted to experience the place and put that, finally get there. So definitely a dream trip.
And you didn't have any porters until you showed up? You just kind of showed up there to where villages near the hiking and hired porters?
There are no porters in that area. They're just farmers that have their things to do, but they were willing to try it. And, they did a good job. I don't think I could have carried stuff like that through there. That's not, not then. But they weren't really used to being porters. And so they signed up. They probably bit off more than they thought they were signing up for. And we started with 80 people and 30 donkeys. And then once it started getting steep, the donkeys turned around, and porters stuck with us. And, they weren't always the most honest bunch, but some of them were really honest and really good men. And in the end, they got us through it, and things there at the end. It's unfortunate it worked out that way. But I don't really remember that as much as just the, being in that gorge. I don't know, deepest gorge on earth, one of them, and getting in there and taking pictures of places that hadn't ever been photographed and that kind of stuff. So I was definitely happy guy.
Yeah, a magical place, right? A place couldn't be more shrouded in legend either, right? With the British, just all the stories of people just not being able to penetrate that area, very few places on Earth, right? I mean, if any of that, we're so shrouded in mystery, so impenetrable.
Right? Yeah, the first time Ken Storm tried to do it, just walked through the gorge. He made it quite a ways, but then he turned around and walked back up. As he was walking in, David Brashears was walking in. No, I'm sorry. Ken Storm was walking into the gorge to try to traverse the whole thing. And when he got halfway through it, David Brashears was walking out. And David just came up to him and said, I've summited Everest 3 times, and you're never going to make it through this gorge. And Ken did. And David hiked out. But huge amount of respect for David, too. That guy was a legend. And he got really close to seeing the falls first, too. That wasn't really reported so much, but I think he might have caught a glimpse of it. I don't know. But that's just kind of the nature. I mean, when I was walking through it, and, I usually had 30 or 40 ticks on me, always. No trail. So I was on my own. I'd get up early, run down, figure out where I was going to shoot. I got lost a lot. The kayakers were laughing at me a lot because I'd get on the radio and be like, guys, I'm lost, I'm surrounded by trees. There's a cliff below me. I can't move. I mean, really, you could get lost in there. And man, if that happened, we didn't have the GPS thing going either at that time. So it was entirely easy to get lost and hurt. And so it was always a good day to make it back to camp.
So that whole 80 porters and the whole crew just kind of cut a trail along the edge. I imagine had to go up. So I mean, this is 3 times as deep as the Grand Canyon. The river's a hell of a lot steeper than the Grand Canyon, and it's over 20,000 foot peaks on both sides.
Yeah, it's just bushwhacking the whole way. With machetes, they would go ahead, and I mean, there's a few game trails in there, but yeah, for the most part. And then we had a guy named Sharab who was from there, born there, and I mean, he's like Captain Gore. He's just such a fit man and live off the land, and just he was kind of in charge of all of them, all the porters, farmers, and so ultimately he was directing us. He had directed Ken Storm through the first time. So Sharab was he'd walk through the forest tying ribbons on the trees as a Buddhist offering. I mean, he was a real devout one with the place. And, but yeah, I mean, so many things that can get you in there, with the rock falls and, the scale. And, so yeah, it was a challenging thing. Challenging thing.
So how long did it take you to get to the base of the pass, the big pass that you had to go over?
It took 10 days. It was about 100 miles down there from the put-in, and 5 days over the pass, and then 3 or 4 days back upstream to the bottom of the biggest gorge, and then they put in, and then they went to the Abalashu, which is the kind of the northern apex of the thumb of the Great Bend of the Tsangpo, and that's where, from then down, I mean, there's still some gray whitewater in there, but it got kind of more closed off in ways. Like the portage options on the river were kind of taken back, even though it's not as steep as some of the stuff upstream. Definitely, the level we had, it was, and that was 35 days in by then, 30 days by the time we got there. And it was just going to take more maybe research, you would call it, to really try to do that whole thing. Maybe lower water down there at the bottom. I'm not sure. I know Scott's had his eyes on it, and maybe he'll make it back before they complete this dam they're working on. But yeah, I mean, when Scott and I put on the post Tsangpo, we were going all the way to India. We had all our boats That footage you saw, we were loaded, we were gung-ho ready. But kind of shows how naive we were, I guess, in some ways. Just too much. Too much. Yeah.
That's awesome. You guys are willing to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you have a dream like that, it's just like it's addicting.
It's the ultimate prize, right? It was like you've been
Addicting.
thinking about it since '86 when Bob McDougall, one of the most legendary
Right?
kayakers of all time, tells you this is the ultimate prize.
Yes, he did. And you know, Bob, he said it very softly and gently and humbly, but he planted that seed. And I remember starting to talk to Scott about it at one point, and it just kind of went. You know, I was a big fan of Galen Rowell too, as a photographer. Galen and his work around Kailash, and then Reinhold Messner. You know, I'm not much of a mountaineer, but huge respect for him and his style, and so kind of putting all that together was kind of the adventure of it, and the approach and the respect for the places, and that's the style we really tried to go for.
Yeah. And then you get to the pass. Imagine that was pretty not the easiest thing to get over. And then it sounded like maybe you wanted to go a certain way, but then to get straight to the river, but the porters sort of revolted at the top of the pass.
They did, right? They revolted at the top of the pass. They wanted twice as much money, or they were going to go home. But you know, I think they used good judgment on going the way we did, because I think the weather we might have gotten in trouble the way we wanted to go. And that's where Sharab, I think, probably made that call, and he knows the place. So that was probably okay. I don't think that made a huge difference. I remember being up on top, though, with Willie, and Willie can get, you know, riled up a little bit sometimes on that stuff. And he was like, I say we just send them all back and we'll deal with all this gear and everything ourselves. And I'm like, Willie, we're on top of this peak, the deepest gorge. We have all this stuff. And you want to tell them just to F off? And right? And he came around. It was good. You really just can't get you know, too fired up out there, and you need help on those things. You know, just to try to do it alpine style. Just put in as kayakers and go down and do that portage, and then I don't know. I don't think that would happen. You know, I don't think that's gonna happen. Just because you can't carry enough gear to do a river like that, and then be in an alpine zone for 5 days, right? And then all the food that goes with it. So that just didn't seem doable. So you had to go to the old style of kind of the old English expeditions, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. Mallory Irvine, huh?
Yeah, total English big mountain
Mallory
style
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
So you get to the bottom of the pass, and then what kind of caused the? That's kind of where it all came to a head with the porters.
Yeah. What do you think would make porters like get riled up?
Money
And alcohol. They hadn't had anything to drink in 2 weeks or more, and we come into this village, and they start drinking, and man, it all went south then. And they held us for 3 or 4 days. They wouldn't let us hire anybody else. They locked down this whole village, and you know, they had us. We were on the phone to our Chinese military, and they were like, "There's no helicopters. We can't help you guys. You're on your own," you know. So at that point, you got to kind of just do your best, and try to, you know, meet somewhere in the middle. But yeah, the alcohol definitely set them off. Which, you know, those are the things you just don't think about now if I was to go out, there's things we would have definitely done different. But that's how you learn, I guess.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense that it was a drunken mob.
Right? Yeah. We got away with our film, though, and the video, and that was precious, and the experience. They couldn't take that away. So I was like, give them what they want. It's not worth 20 grand to, get injured or have them throw our stuff in the river or, yeah. So.
Well, maybe Willie was right after all at the top of the pass. Just packed your boats, just gone on.
Well, we still had a good 10 days, of schlepping out of there. But it wouldn't have ended that way. They would have taken all our money probably at the top of the pass and gear, and it could have been a lot worse. So it's funny. I did get a group portrait of them in the beginning. So the ones that did us wrong, I was able to I had a record of, if it would have gotten out of hand, I had a record of who was involved. I didn't think about it at the time I took the picture, but just got to expect. I think all those trips, there's something like that makes it more colorful and, adds to the commitment and ultimately the, just the intensity. The intensity definitely plays a big part in how you're going to remember it, and especially when it works out well. Yeah. I know Scott was pretty exhausted at the end of it. He was exhausted. He was trying to pull off a big thing with lots of things on the line, and good on him. He pulled it together there.
I reread that article, and it said it's called Scott's Charmless Intensity.
I've never heard that.
The outside writer wrote.
Oh, the outside one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's funny. I read that, and I was like, Scott, yeah, I think it talked about Scott and our travels a little bit in Nepal, I think. Was it that one? I'm not sure, but
it was the full Tsangpo article.
Okay.
The outside one before. The same person wrote the book. Was it Hampton who wrote the book?
Peter Heller. Yeah.
Yeah, Peter Heller. It was Peter Heller's article and outside.
Right. Yeah. There was something in outside that maybe after the article that Scott had talked about some of our adventures, but charmless, what'd you call it? Intensity?
Charmless intensity.
What did he mean by that?
I don't know. The guy's not a kayaker, so.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to, you got to be honest with Scott. People that try to BS Scott, they only get one chance. And so, I think if, you show respect, he shows respect, and, it takes time to get to know someone, but, Scott's focused when he's in there, and, you have to be, I think. And
if he didn't have that intensity, he wouldn't have accomplished what he accomplished, right?
Right, yeah. He's an ambitious guy. Yeah. Yeah. Scott was, like I said, he's always been one of my best friends, and just, I don't know, we do kind of, what do you call it? Complement each other in different parts of our personality that we always seem to do well out there on the trail and understand each other pretty well. I really can't remember us ever having an argument. Just lots of laughs. Yeah.
And once you got done, was it after that when you finally got it resolved with the porters, paid them off, then a group went up to find the falls? And
Yep, they went up and looked. Ken Storm had been there before, but yeah. Small group went up there and just did a little side. I was pretty spent. And just needed some days to chill. But yeah, that was cool. If you see pictures from in that inner gorge, I mean, I don't think that'll ever be run. Maybe with a dam above it that's only dropping, releasing 2,000 CFS, maybe that would be possible. Probably would be, but with the kind of flows that are going through there, it's just huge scale, and no escape, and goes underground, goes under rocks in places like a 50-yard bed of rock. It'll just go under as a class 5 and then come up in that inner gorge. So there's all kinds of problems downstream that I don't think that was ever on the plan of kayaking that stretch. Yeah.
And so did Ken go up? Did he go with them to see? Because there are like 200-foot waterfalls that have sort of been seen by somebody, but no, right? Even hit like it barely kind of been glimpsed by people, but we're still pretty mysterious.
Yeah, there were a couple pictures taken in '97, and then King and Ward took some black and whites in '26. But yeah, they got some good shots. The climber we had with us, Andrew Shepard, was able to climb scale walls and get real close to those, and some stunning stuff. I mean, I would love to go back by helicopter maybe and get dropped off there. But yeah, it's a special place for sure. It's the heart of the gorge. That one, Rainbow Falls, Hidden Falls, and then the 8 miles below it, Wards Falls, just screaming through there. It's like 300 or 400 feet per mile in some places. And yeah, scuba. Maybe when they get scuba kayaking down, they'll be able to go in there, right?
We saw it.
Cool place.
Yeah, it's a shame. It sounds like it's getting the dam's moving forward now, huh? Or it seems like I saw some stuff recently about it.
Yeah, that's what they say. I don't think in the end, hundreds of years that thing will stand, but it'll probably for a while. And if who knows? I don't think it's real clear where they're going with it and where it's going to be, but definitely generating tons of power. And now there's a rapid in that middle gorge that it's screaming down. It flies off this shelf, hits a wall, falls back to the pool below, and does a 120-degree turn right there, where you go back, another just 5+, 6 screaming stuff. It's off the scale.
Wow.
Very, very cool. No one's been back. Yeah. But with Aniol and these guys that do the Stikine 3 times in one day, it'd be cool to see.
Like you said, that lower part is still not run in a way, right? That whole lower part. I remember Stewksbury a decade ago, Moore was thinking about it, but then and then I talked to I think maybe it was Mikey or Alan, but they'd said they'd pushed the road quite a ways up since you guys, and people had been running a fair bit of it up towards it. But
that would make a big difference. Huge difference. Yeah. Again, I mean, just the rapids I could see, the walls and nowhere to get around, and still, huge rapids with, 500 logs in the eddy below going around and around. I mean, it's just, again, at the right water level, if it could get low enough, you might have a shot at it.
And so you guys pretty much put back in where it got back to being doable and not
from that middle where the Rainbow Falls and the Hidden Falls and the steepest section is pretty much where they got back in. and then they took it down to the apex of the bend, and then that's when it was the best place to come out.
And that was a Gloff had come in from below that and scoured the banks or something?
Yeah, so in 97, 98, when Scott and I were there and we kayaked that Tsangpo, it was lush on the river, all the way. Well, then the Gloff came down the Tsangpo, and it was scoured up to 300 feet high, the whole thing, just bedrock. So it ripped it all. Definitely ripped it all out, and yeah, so many things changed, downstream. I think it's doable. I mean, I bet Scott's going to give it another shot. He should, if they'll let him in there. That's the thing. It's so expensive. I think it comes down to money as far as getting in there.
I mean, Tibet, it's pretty much closed off now.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even issue tourist visas for it. I mean, for
they're not
years
now. Yeah, and probably the same with Kailash, which that's a shame because that place is so special. I would say probably the most powerful place I've ever been. And I don't know. Funny, you can go over there and one day it's closed and then it's open for 5 days and then it's closed again. It's always hit and miss. But it's expensive. It's expensive. The Tsangpo permit was expensive. It takes. I think that's probably the underlying issue.
Yeah, your pictures did such a good job of capturing the scale. I think like there's one with the whole tongue of the glacier coming all the way down to the river, and just the kayakers. You don't even see them at first in the picture, and then you see the little bright dots. But yeah,
right.
That was amazing.
It's easy, thank you. It's easy to get sucked into coming in tight on that stuff, but if you really want to see the place, you got to force yourself to shoot wide. Just shooting them on the river like tight, that could be a lot of places. But when you can really get the place, I think that's really what I tried to do. I shot film in there, which I would have been great to have digital, that capability, because I think more things would have probably come out, and film is a lot harder in my opinion. But it's still, film is a special medium, and to have, I think I shot almost 300 rolls in there, and so I definitely treasure that. The Chinese took those away from me when we got detained, and I was worried. They were like, "Oh, we're going to go develop these," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, their chemicals and everything are probably ancient, and my stuff's done." But I got it back and came back and got them all developed, fortunately. But yeah, that was. You mentioned things like that glacier, those kind of things just jumping out, at you, and yeah, it's a whole new scale. You got to print them huge almost to really appreciate them, I think, to see it. But I do treasure those. I do treasure those slides, and yeah.
How'd you get into photography in the first place?
I think my dad got me into it just when I was in my teens, and took photos, and just kind of always fascinated with it, and then realized getting into places in a kayak that no one had been before, that opportunity, slowly getting published, and then boom, it becomes really, it's just as rewarding for me to get an amazing shot in my mind than it is to run the rapid. So that's kind of the level I got to, and as far as how much it meant to me. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating now. It's changed so much with AI and everything. I worry about AI. I think it's gonna. It takes away a lot, I think, from the creativity part, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about AI.
Hard to say. I mean, in one way, it kind of democratizes creativity, right? Anybody can create their own logo for their business, right? Things like that. But yeah, no, it changes what it means to be creative, right? To even produce, like even like reports. Now, like if I'm writing some report on something that's pretty hard, I don't know how I could even now start from just a blank sheet and think of how am I going to say this? How am I, right? And it's like AI, it's almost everybody now gets things started with it. And so
Wow. I mean, every aspect of your settings on a film camera you can now do on AI after the fact. You can change the color, the shutter speed, the f-stop, the depth of field, all those things you can change after. I mean, that's unheard of back in the film days. And so that kind of takes away from one's need to really, become really proficient at learning that kind of stuff. I like AI. Just it can take a real blurry image and sharpen it. I think that's the one thing I do like, and that's cheating, but it has saved a few photos that I was grateful about. But in general, guessing what the exposure needed to be and the settings, that was the hard part, and it's where the just made it so gratifying to try to work those things out.
Carrying 300 rolls of film in a dry bag and then having to figure out the settings every time. So that dry bag of film was your little baby.
Oh, no kidding. I mean, I slept with that next to me, and definitely I went across this bridge on a pulley, and it came to a stop in the middle, looking down at the Tsangpo at my feet and my backpack, camera, and all my film. And the pulley had been welded like 10 times, and it was like horse rope. I mean, it was sketch. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to plunge off this thing and lose it all. But yeah, the film is something that a lot can happen to it. It can get wet. It can get too hot. It's a lot. But it is amazing what digital has done now. How it's arrived. Nice thing is you didn't need power, though, with film. No recharging, nothing like that. I guess for some auto camera, but not like the digital stuff. Yeah.
Can you imagine the fold-out solar panels that expedition would have today?
That's what got us in trouble a little bit. Sending some uncensored, by the Chinese CCP or whatever, Chinese party. We were just sending kayaking shots from camp, a few here and there, but the porters told them and they didn't like it. So they these guys are spies, right? So they would use a few things like that, but that wasn't the case. But yeah.
So they were waiting at the takeout for you?
Well, once they robbed us, all the porters hiked out and got the authorities and told them that we were stealing rocks and animal skins and feathers and seeds and from the gorge, right? And so we get out, we're all stoked, and then we get detained, basically arrested. And then it took 2.5 weeks to get out.
2.5 weeks?
Seven nationalities on that trip. We all had to call our consulates and go through the bureaucratic political process to get out of there. It's crazy.
I can see how it seems suspicious, right? That seems pretty suspicious. Like, what are all these people doing over there?
Yeah, 7 nationalities. That doesn't sound very spy-like, though. I mean, yeah, there's Canadian, Nepali, South African, England, American, all that. Kiwi.
Steve Fisher, Dustin Knapp, Johnny Kern, Willie Kern, Alan Ellard, Mikey Abbott. Is that it?
Scott and I think you said them, yeah. Fisher, yeah. Yep, 7. Yep. But like I said, it's more once they have you and what they maybe come into your room with and plant on you. It was my concern. There's certain things that you can get help with, but there's certain things you can't get help with. And, they were to plant some things on you that were bad, you could go down. So we were fortunate to get out of there. There were some big shouts and high fives when our plane left Tibet. Yeah.
There's no sneaking out the back door with the Chinese, right? In a place like Nepal, there's always going to be some payoff solution or something, right? Or anywhere in Latin America, there's always some workaround. But in China,
they're smart. They're smart people. They're hard to trick. They're on it. So, yeah. But there is a sense of paranoia, like presumed guilty until proven innocent. Those kinds of things that, it's sad because it keeps the people pretty suppressed, pretty afraid, and that kind of energy. That's when you really appreciate, what we have here and what we've had. And
hopefully we keep what we have here. It's definitely, I never thought some of the things, right, that you see every day in places like Hungary or Nicaragua or Turkey, right? You see all these things standard, none of it's new, but it's never thought you'd see any of it in the U.S. And it's like in China, I had spent a fair bit of time there and had a good friend, and no one has heard of Tiananmen Square, right? You try to tell them that this thing happened in Tiananmen Square in '89, like, no, they won't not believe you.
It's a generational thing, I guess. I mean, that was huge. But yeah,
it doesn't exist.
Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, I made friends with a lot of Tibetans, and they would speak their minds about the history and the truth, so you do get that perspective. But, you don't realize how, until you lose those rights and your freedom and all that, you just don't realize how, amazing and important they are and how much, how meaningful and how lucky we are in a lot of ways. Yeah. So I haven't been back to China since. I might be on a list. I don't know. You just never know. But hopefully, I mean, I met some great people there too. Younger generation there, and I really had a lot of hope that things would turn around there. And I don't know.
Well, it seems like more of the world's moving that way, right? I mean, if you start to lump the U.S. into the group of sort of strongman, leaders, you've got most of the world's population between China, Russia, Turkey. I mean, India, you could even put in there sort of with Modi, right? And the U.S. And all of a sudden, that's the standard model, right? Not this democracy thing that's so messy, right? Now, all of a sudden, most of the world's population is living under this model sort of won out, right? Where it was kind of before communism and democracy fighting or whatever back in the day, and democracy won, and now it just feels like this strongman thing is what's winning over democracy.
Feels like a regression, doesn't it? The regression. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Kind of history. Things happen, but hopefully, good will win out.
The U.S. will endure. But now the one that really kind of tripped me even with all of it, was the statistics one, where they fired the person who's in charge of putting out government statistics because Trump didn't like what the inflation rate was, and that's exactly what China's always done, right? And it was like, oh my God, like that's a different deal if you can't even trust what the numbers are for the economy now.
I know. It's out of control right now. Out of control. Well, you just got to get your boat and go up to the Stikine and take a break from it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And a rapid is so unique that it just gets you into that space of, right? Your mind is, they talk about meditation or whatever, of clearing your mind, but I don't think there's any better mind clearing meditation than sitting in the eddy above a big drop and like paddling off.
Right. This demands 100% presence. And and you're just thinking about making it to the bottom, right? Nothing else, really. Yeah,
that's a good point, though. That presence, that's what's rare. That's what's hard to find. And maybe that's what people who are going for adrenaline, that's really what they're seeking, right? Is that presence that you only get in a semi-dangerous situation.
Yeah, the Stikine demands presence. Those kind of places do. And, for me, I hear people talk about being adrenaline junkies, that kind of stuff. I am not an adrenaline junkie. The only times I've ever had rushes of adrenaline are when things have started to go wrong. And so I've never seeked that out. I get enough just being online and seeing all this around me, but as long as I'm not upside down headed for a monster hole that's going to rip me out, and I'm going to lose all my stuff forever and hike out. That's the kind of, I don't look for that stuff. That's, so the adrenaline thing, I think people that, a journey expedition demands that consistent keeping it together. When I think of adrenaline, I think of maybe jumping out of a plane or that shot of adrenaline, but, I get plenty of adrenaline, I guess, just by having a good run, but it's not too much. It's it allows you to not get to be able to stay focused and, like you said, present. And
maybe you have a high adrenaline tolerance as well, right? It takes a lot till you start to freak out, right? You can operate calmly under every hour you're on the Stikine, you're somewhat under some adrenaline influence, right? Those butterflies in the stomach of just like being present.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that you can train yourself, and with experiences more and more, that bar probably goes up. When I think of adrenaline rush, I think of someone that's just like, on the edge of freaking out or something. It's just so, or whatever it is, but I like it to be calm going down the river.
And that's what adrenaline does, though, right? It almost like it's what your body's natural response to calm you and put you into that
is it?
Present state. I don't know.
But the initial hit, the spike of norepinephrine or whatever it is, I think that can hit you like a car wreck. You get a big hit of adrenaline on that, but that's, I prefer just just trying to be one with the river, letting the river be the boss, and just trying to get along and, feel like I belong there and that I've put the time in. And really, when I haven't, that becomes apparent pretty quick. And I usually will get off the river when those things have happened. So
yeah, I know what you mean. That there's definitely that bad adrenaline, right? If you have an altercation with another human, maybe like a stranger, right? That all of a sudden you shout, who knows, that happen in life, and it's like that just feels so shitty, that adrenaline that you're stuck with after those confrontations.
Yeah, even the Stikine, you can be sitting there scouting a rapid, and all of a sudden 10 huge house-sized boulders come sliding by, or the Himalayas too. And there's things out there all the time. So you do have to be super vigilant. But again, it's just like keeping steady and calm and making good decisions is, so much of a part of kayaking for me. Once you get through the physical part of learning it, I think it's 90% emotional, right? 90% emotional and mental, and then the 10% is the given, kind of the physical, and that's the best part of the sport. Yeah,
it's so mental.
It's good to be scared, but it's good to jump through that window of vulnerability. I think that's where the learning really takes place. When you're vulnerable, you jump through it, you see what's possible that you didn't think was possible before. And that's such a gift that kayaking offers. It's always been the best part for me, anyway. Been very fortunate.
The multi-day expeditions, right? I mean, I'd say that would be the next step for somebody to take after the North Fork, the Little White. Go on a multi-day expedition, because that's really, so much of how you talk about it. It's like that's the feel. That's where you really get that feeling when you're actually in there. Your stuff's in your boat. You're camping on the side of the river. You
gotta live out there. You gotta live out there, right? Yeah, that's what, like, Walt Blackadar was. He's amazing. He soloed the Turnback Canyon in 71 at the age of 48 or 49. All he took was a handgun and a loaf of bread and a bottle of scotch. And he could go out there for 30 days and live, because he's a doctor, he's a hunter. There's no kayakers that could pretty much do that now that I can think of. He could ride a horse out there. He could just do anything. So it's a lost kind of set of skills. But and on your point, a great one is the Box Canyon of the Clark's Fork of the Yellowstone, as far as truly magnificent kind of 2-day, 3-day, depending on, in a pretty remote and stark environment. But we're fortunate to have that. So I think that's a great run for people that want to do something like that here in the States. Yeah.
That one's close to my heart. And the kids these days they're running it. They're running it high. I was down there, ran the upper stretch a few years ago, and the Voorhees and some others were running a low. I mean, they run it high, and but that one, it's the undercuts though. I mean, for sending people, I've seen multiple underworld experiences there.
I have too.
Swimming through sieves, it's really sieved out as one thing with that run, But
there've been casualties.
But we're the Cali multi-days, right? It's just this little paradise that you're just sliding through.
Unbelievable. California is definitely, it's one of by far the greatest places on earth for kayaking. It's so dynamic.
I saw some footage from this summer of Aaron Pruzon's son took a swim on the mandatory drop on Deliberation. I think just got jammed in there where you got to run it on the right, or you can run it different ways. But I actually saw his dad and Scott Doherty would run it middle. That became their favorite.
I've heard people doing that. Yeah. I forget his name, but he's a very talented kayaker, Aaron's son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Nate.
Oh yeah, I guess I was thinking of his dad's partner that did the Stikine in '95 with him.
That was
Aaron. Was it Aaron and? It was Aaron and gosh,
Ted LaRoe.
His son's amazing too. I mean, his son goes backwards off these big ones and wheels it.
Really?
And, yeah, he's really a good paddler. Anyway,
I didn't know his son paddled too. I should know that guy. I painted for him in Jackson, so I'd be like, run out of money camping there, and we'd go like paint for him.
It's
and
Joe
he used
Larry.
to tell us, Joe Leroux.
Joe
He's
Leroux's
like, I ran
son.
the Stikine with Aaron Pruzan. And we're like, bullshit, you didn't run the Stikine. You just got us painting.
So yeah, Leroux's son is really amazing paddler. Yeah. Those guys had a hell of an adventure on the Stikine. I mean, they got lost. They got separated, right? They got separated for a whole day and had to run day 2 on their own, and then they regrouped, camp late. You know, I mean, pretty amazing. Great adventure for them, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because they couldn't make it out of Joe couldn't make it out of the eddy, there, the big fence you got to burst.
Yeah. But I thought one of them thought one was upstream and it was downstream, so they didn't know where they were, and they both just kept kind of, whatever. I would not want, that would be scary, especially your first time. But they held it together, get on them, and there have been some classic expeditions up there. And I just saw today, like 9 people went down at once, and it's a lot more people are getting up there, I guess.
It's held up. It's still a classic stepping stone.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it's always going to be, I would never want to go in there thinking, oh, this is easy, or there's a lot can happen. I mean, the river can double overnight pretty easy. Go from 8,000 to 20,000 in a night, or just so many different, But we're fortunate to have something that close, and I don't think I'm going back.
No.
I got a good buddy. We talked about R2 and it. Just talking, but that's not going to happen. But
Rocky went in there with the raft, Rocky contest. He was kind of, I think Corey booked.
Creature crafts?
He kind of has this homemade creature craft thing. So he has a raft with this basically a creature craft, but homemade.
Well, again, I recommend people, if they want to go up there, don't go with someone that's done it before. It'll be the best trip of your life.
That's good advice. So North Fork, go with somebody. Stikine, go with someone who's never done it before.
Most rivers do it with no one that's done it before, because then it's like your own first ascent, right? Totally. You figure it out. Actually, I've gone in and gotten beta on rivers where I was so focused on the beta that I missed these other options that were probably better.
Oh, it's exactly what happens. You just start thinking, oh, is this that one that they were talking about?
Yeah, right. We got to go right. We got to go right. Yeah. I found that happening a lot. So I was like, I don't know. I think it's better just to figure it out yourself. Maybe
when we wrote that Montana guidebook, we were like, we're not going to put any directions at all. Like where to go. Because, it just screws you.
That's what I love about Rob Lesser. I talked to him. He said he had talked with you before, and but Rob he hates guidebooks of any kind. He really does, and he wants people to go in there and figure it out for themselves. And that, in the end of the day, that's where the satisfaction comes. And there's some trips it took Scott and I three recons to do the Tuliberry, and kept getting shut down, either high water or low water, or piecing it all together. But then when you finally get it done, you walk away with something really special that stays with you for life, and that's a satisfaction. North Fork's a little different because everything looks the same. I mean, if the North Fork was in the middle of nowhere and there was no road and you had to come down and scout everything and run it, I mean, that would be a pretty dang hard run. That would be and it would be awesome, but it's just everything and the nature of it. It's already like kind of man-made, the way they built the railroad and threw all the rocks in, and it's, you know, so many moves to remember in there that just learning it that way seemed like a better option. And I think at that time I didn't have the same philosophy as figuring it out for yourself, or maybe I would have done it different. I don't know.
So did you first see the Tule Berry, like where it confluences with the rafting run, and you look up it?
You know, it's the berry by the time it gets there. You got the Sanu berry, small, and Tule big. They come together, and then the berry, and then they hit the Carnally down there. But no, green slime in Kathmandu, just Peter Knowles, guidebook guy, he's like, you know, Charlie, the last great unrun river in Nepal. The big one, you know, one of the big ones. And he told me the Tule Berry. And so I got pretty focused on that pretty fast. And I'm so grateful he shared that with me. Yeah. Very cool place up in Dolpo. I mean, those are the places. If I went to Nepal and I was giving people advice, I would stick for the Carnally, Tule Berry, the ones you have to really go in and they take 25 days, the whole thing. You know, it's just, you're way out there. You're not around all the, it's like being in a national park more than being in a third world and all the things that go with that. Yeah.
Carnally is, yeah, it rises above really most of the others in Nepal, but it's getting dammed too.
Does that happen soon? Is that going to happen soon?
Mag's posting stuff about. I ran into him here in Colorado last year, and he was he Dave's part? He was with Ultimate Descent.
Oh,
Meg
broke
off and started Ultimate Descents Nepal.
Yeah, Meg. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so David, Jerry, and Guy were partners at Equator, and then Ultimate Descents, and then Jerry and Guy split and started Equator. Yeah, it's kind of how it works. You know, now in Nepal though, you have to be Nepali to run a company, and you even have to be a Nepali to be a guide now.
Well, I remember they did the guide thing back in the 90s.
Have they changed that?
Really, you can't even own it anymore, huh?
Yeah, I don't think so. You might be able to be a silent partner, but I think it has to be, which is, that's okay.
But those guys, Ultimate Descents, that was the first, right?
Yeah.
The first raft company that's set up right there in Tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Jerry would just go around the bars and do slideshows and get punters, and they would go. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What legends, Dave Allardyce and Jerry Moffat. Just
oh, man.
Pioneering that.
David, yeah, he's the gas man. He made it happen. And so much respect. I got to walk with him a lot in the Tsangpo, and David just, you know, what a guy. Yeah, love that guy.
And he didn't run out of whiskey on Tsangpo?
I never saw him drink anything.
Oh, he probably stopped by then, you know?
Maybe. I never saw him. Nobody I saw drink until the porters got to that camp. And oh, but you know, now I think of it, maybe when we got to that camp, David might have had a couple. I can't remember, but maybe we blame David for getting all the porters drunk in a comically way, you know. Now, David, he was, I've never seen a guy have so much energy and stoke. You know, he was just full on. And Jerry, too. I mean, God, I can't imagine those guys back in their youth. And, you know, now Jerry dropped out of school, I think, at 14 or 15 and went out there and guided. Yeah, 16, 17. And, yeah, Jerry's been so many places in his life. And, you know.
I was watching TV a couple years ago, and up pops Jerry floating in Bhutan hunting Yeti.
Oh, right.
And he's on this Yeti, he's taking these people. It's like, here's our guy, Jerry Muffin. And he's, oh no, well, I think there could be the Yeti up here around the corner, you know. Oh, look at those prints. This could be a Yeti prints.
I think he kind of sold out on that one. But
I say sell it all out of here. If you can make money river running, then go for it.
Yeah, I'm just teasing him. He's a great personality and great, for a adventure television or whatever. He'd be a great host in anything he did like that. And Jerry is like so fun to do expeditions with. I mean, he's so funny. That British humor. He's Scottish, but still, they give each other so much crap, and it's just laughing the whole way. Really don't take things as serious as I've experienced on some other kinds of trips. So it's always fun to hang out with them. In 1990, Mamby and a bunch of those guys came by Idaho and grabbed me, and we went to the Clark's Fork for the first time, and it was a hoot for sure. Yeah. They were in stunt bats, talking about going under rocks and stuff. I've seen it. I was in a big Corsica just floating over all of it, but it was heavy carrying it through there, but I was happy. But yeah, those are good times. Matter of fact, I think Marcus Schmidt was on that trip on the Indus that they did back in '89. I think so.
Yeah. So that river's nuts.
Indus?
The first footage I saw of that, it was just I think it might have been Stewksbury and them and Darren, and it was just getting surfed in so many holes, even back then, and then to see, what they're doing now on it, like Dane's descent, where he ran basically everything, including that one drop. That was just
wow,
insanity.
Yeah, Dane is really amazing, just amazing. Yeah, he's got so many talents and skills, and he's got such a cool personality and mind, and definitely a great person to be representing the sport.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there,
Yeah. And Dane kind of lost, Conrad was their paddling partner, kind of, and lost him. Dane lost Bryn a few years ago, and these two were so tight. That was such a blow. Still just feel for him so much.
I think most kayakers at that level end up losing somebody that they really love, and something that you paddle for them once they go.
I guess you got to have that risk to get the reward that you get out of it. There's they feel like the two rules that seem to apply to everything in life is that every action is an equal and opposite reaction, and that yin yang symbol. It's like you can never break the balance in the long term.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I know the river is so much about physics, and it's every once in a while they line up against you, and it's tragic. But that's the hardest part, I think, about kayaking. My experience.
And it's weird too, right? Because just like a piece of wood float, right? I mean, you can throw a chunk of wood and like the nastiest looking thing, and sometimes it'll pop right out and be fine,
Yeah.
And it's like with kayaking, you can do the absolute worst thing you can imagine. Like I've done it on Deliberation Corner. I was running the whole thing, from the top, and on falls above the main section just shot me into the wall on the left, flipped me over upside down, and went far left channel upside down and backwards over both of those jobs. And every time I'd seen that, I was like, if you go left, you're dead. Don't do that. And I did upside down and backwards off of both and rolled up unscathed.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, 99% of the time the river's pretty forgiving. It's very forgiving, actually, considering what the forces and all that. But just once in a while, it gangs up. All the physics gang up, and it's just a rough one. It is a rough one. So I think it's that's really like, yeah. Like I said, there's no words for that stuff.
But yeah, I'm thinking, is it? I don't know. You think like nothing's worth missing out on more days on Earth, right? But then you got to take that is to really get your days to be really special in some ways.
No, I agree. I mean, I would say at the end, those are the days that's what you're gonna remember. Those days. Those days when you were right up against the edge. And, it worked out. And yeah. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's just you have to do your part and be in shape and be wise and use safety, do what you can to mitigate anyway, right? In my experience. But, yeah, doing barrel rolls off waterfalls like Dane and that stuff. I mean, we didn't have that vision. Incredible stuff.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Good to see him push it.
Right? Oh, and I can only imagine in 20, 30 years what they'll be doing, right?
Yeah.
Keeps going up. And I guess you'd call it skill. Yeah.
In a way, though, there's only so much you can run, right? It's almost like a lot of the unlocking of those rivers, like the Stikine or the High Sierra multi-days, it's kind of, you get to where it's just not really runnable. There's so much that's like 80% runnable, but not really.
Yeah, or you're going to get really hurt. Like it's watching them, photographing them run Palouse, that's pretty big, 190 feet. How far are they going to be able to go? And there's danger there. Like I think that's a lot more dangerous than running, a canyon that's full of stuff. That just the kinetic energy in there and the height, and that was pretty. What a step, for Tyler to take, and then the ones that have followed him. That's pretty magnificent.
And you really had a kind of a surge there of documenting a lot of that stuff in the Pacific Northwest with that next generation. There's a lot of amazing photos you were taking of a lot of those waterfalls and things.
Oh, thanks. Well, I was lucky, a lot of great paddlers live here in White Salmon, and got to be friends, and they invite me, and I was always chasing, like I don't know, Tokiti Falls down there on the North Umpqua is such an amazing waterfall. As far as the theater is just so beautiful, and it took 20 plus years for me to get that, for it to all line up, the paddler, the water level, the light, right? And then Palouse, I got to shoot that a few different occasions, and yeah, that's super, but I worry too. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to get really hurt, So it's, fortunately I haven't seen that happen, but
generally don't get hurt. You just die.
That's not funny. I'm sorry, the way you said it. No, but I think something like Palouse, you could. I think you could do some serious back stuff. Yeah.
We've all had broken backs and stuff, so you definitely get hurt to that level.
You got to driftwood it. If I went over Palouse, I'd driftwood. I think they do, probably. Just like a log, just slow. Just get small.
That might have been the day the Oregon Tuck. That was
it.
Landmark moment in the Oregon Tuck history when you went off Spirit that day.
Got to get small and go deep. No, I think it just kind of, I don't know. Boofing those big boats at the time, I don't think was as much of a thing. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not a huge waterfall person. I like them if they're nice and clean, but I've seen people run so much stuff. I would have never run. I don't think. Yeah.
That's really cool that those guys reached out to you to go shoot stuff, Rush and Tyler and White Sam.
For sure. I mean, gosh, that was, and we're looking at what's next. We're looking at what's next. Got to get some of these guys stoked enough.
Yeah, they're starting to slow down a little, they're getting of an age.
Yeah, but the young ones are coming up.
And you're in the Mecca, man. You're in definitely the Mecca of it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some good ones around here. There's some taller ones than Palouse.
Really?
Yeah. There's a couple.
Well, it's funny how Palouse pretty much ended that race. It was pretty much after that, I was like, all right.
Oh, it stomped it. It stomped the world record. We knew it'd be a while. Yeah. Have you boated out here in the gorge?
Yeah. I was definitely, I got 18 the first time, or it was summer I graduated high school, drove out there, and it was like just all those waterfalls, right? Honeypole, and the Little White, and went up to BC. Yeah, that was life-changing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was chasing, in let's see, 2000 about, I chased like Tommy Hillicky and that group, Daniel Delaverne, just that crew, the Lunch Video guys, and they were charging it hard up there. Mamquam and a lot of those rivers up there.
It's cool you shot all that with those guys.
Yeah, so much respect for those guys as well. What a great crew they had. I've been fortunate, hook up with the Kerns and generations before me, Lesser and Ammons, and just that caliber, Brian Tooley, and then the kind of passing the torch. That's what we do, and really impressed with the current generation that's going, and I think kayaking is in a good place.
Yeah, there's some photographers that you like. I know Dane takes amazing photos. I know it's also kind of changed, right? Where it's less one of the more memorable ones I've seen was actually that drone when Dane was running that one outlet falling. Maybe it was in New Zealand. It was kind of moonscapey, and that drone just swoops down. It's almost right. The whole thing has changed for that new generation where it's different than just getting the shot and creating this piece of art.
As far as the drone thing, or what do you mean?
Just how much more. Of just how much more tools they have, available for that they just grow up with, and like they don't ever learn about film, but it's like they've got a drone and a GoPro from when they very first start.
Right. Yeah, I wish we had GoPros. Our GoPro was a big camera duct taped on the front of your boat.
We used to put it in the cockpit, and then it would have a string up to mount it on the helmet. I remember first time we used it was Celeste Falls, and you know how you do the seal launch into the little alleyway above Celeste?
Yeah.
But we've done all this work, rigged up this whole system, and we're all fired up. We're going to get the first helmet footage we've ever gotten, and Scott Doherty had it on. He seal launches off of that into that pool, and it like smacks it and breaks the camera on the seal launch. So we didn't even get head cam off of Celeste.
Oh, geez. Where were we? Oh, yeah, you're going to run the next 300-foot waterfall and set the record, right? I'll come photograph you.
No, but actually, while I was talking with Adam Majors and another Moffat alumni of Nepal rafting, who actually that's where I met him, was like walking down the streets of Tamil, and he's like, you go to Montana State. It's like, yeah. Went and did the Bodhi Cozy, which that's one, if you're going to go hang out in Nepal, you can't go wrong just going up to one of those camps like Borderlands on the Bodhi Cozy and hanging out a little while.
Yeah, I said Upper Sun Cozy, which is the Bodhi Cozy. I couldn't find the word for it earlier. But yeah, I agree, up by Barabisi, up there by the Friendship. I heard an earthquake or something took out that Friendship, Nepal, Tibet crossing and everything. Did you hear that?
Right.
Yeah, that entry. Mm-hmm. But you're right. That is a steep. There above those camps. There's some big rapids. Very big. Very big. Yeah.
And just beautiful, right? Just beautiful water. But yeah, he was saying that Conrad did the first descent of Selway Falls in the squirt boat.
Conrad Fourney? I don't know.
He said.
Maybe. Yeah. That's funny.
Wow.
That's funny. So you did you did the Upper Bodhi Cozy. Did you do the Bluffy Cola too?
I don't think
it's right next to. Yeah, it's.
Yeah. But yeah, the upper has just that really turquoise water and the drops, the more abrupt, cleaner drops.
Yeah. We were up there in late September, and it was full on scary mud colored. I suppose that in October and November it probably turns pretty color. Did you do the Sun Cozy too?
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. 10 days.
Scott and I did it at 100,000 in 2 days.
I bet.
100,000, just blew down it. Again, that was a post-monsoon. That's why I'm saying you can just get whatever you're looking for there.
I didn't even know people went there that we always waited till late. But yeah, I bet that gorge towards the end, right, when you're almost to the end and all of a sudden it drops into that other gorge, I bet that was pretty
Sun Cozy?
swirly at the bottom of the Sun Cozy.
Yeah. Sorry.
That might be one where you get a bunch of water in there. It's pretty tight.
That's where the Arun comes in. Or the Timur.
Yeah, the Timur.
Timur comes in. Oh, also did the Dude Cozy. Forgot that one. Got to mention that one. That's the big... That could be the hardest river in Nepal, really, when it's rocking, There's still the main gorge in there has never been run. The Brits...
Like the one that flows from Everest?
Yeah. The ones they made films back in the 70s, 80s, Kites and Kayaks, and McHopkins and Mamby and all those guys. Yeah, those are some epic trips in there. The Dude Cozy...
So that was also Mamby on that 70s Dude Cozy.
Mm. He was pretty young then, but yeah, there's a picture of Mick Hopkins and Mike Jones. He was the leader up at Everest Base Camp with their fiberglass boat. Yeah.
So those three. And that was also the Indus.
Well, there was those three. There was Chan Swaznik was on that. Chan.
Oh, really?
Of Colorado.
He was on the Dude Cozy.
He was on that film. And then... Mike, other guy from over there. But yeah, they had paraglider was killed. Motor paraglider on the team was killed in the beginning. They've had some epics.
So you had to do before drones. You had to have a motorized paraglider up there trying to shoot.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll get someone say, "What kind of drone are you using for that?" I'm like, "Man, we had to climb the mountain then." There are no drones.
Which the drones now, they can even use them to scout, right? That's really been crazy to see how that game has changed with being able to throw up a drone and go see how it's looking.
Yes, I agree. I think it's so cool that you can just wear something and it'll follow you,
But so it's like, can anyone ever still get that experience you and Conrad had, or even that Cruzan and Joe have, because it's, you know, even your cell phone now, the iPhone can send satellite, like, so easy, right? You know, now I'm out in the woods and I'm like, oh, the phone's blowing up just from satellite, you know? And it's, so you've got that, you've got drone. It's like, I don't know, could you ever really get that same?
If you leave them behind, I guess.
You leave them behind and go with someone who hasn't been down before, like you said.
With no notes. And just know where the put-in is and the takeout. And I mean, I think it's worth it. I know. It just doesn't make as much of an impact on you or sketched as deeply when you know what's around that corner, or you got somebody with you saying, oh, we're good here, we're fine, you know, we should do this, we should do that. I mean, it's so different, right? It's so different. And that's the best part of the whole thing, is going through all those emotions and having to live with them and sort them out. That's where the reward is, I think. The commitment's in the reward, or the reward's in the commitment, in my opinion. So the more committing, I've always found it's just way more rewarding, you know. When we did the Triple Crown in 30 days, which was the Susitna, Stikine, Devil's Canyon, Turnback, and Grand, you know, at the end of 30 days, I was pretty, yeah, I was wiped out mentally from having to be on keeping it together so long. You know, definitely you have kind of a break at the end, just kind of an emotional break, because it's been so, you know, I mean, it's the same thing that soldiers, you know, I mean, it's a type of PTSD because you're running on such a high level of needing to be aware and danger overlooming. And it's just something that happens.
And counting on your friends so much, right? I remember thinking when all that Iraq war stuff was going on, and you would see so much about these SEAL people or whatever, and it was like, what? That's about how I feel, you know? Like, you got your crew, you're going in, you know, you got to planned it, you're relying on each other. It really was like, yeah, it's not much different, you know, and you can really get that kind of brotherhood that gets formed.
You can. Yeah. It's deep. It's deep. It's similar. I mean, it is similar. It's living under that kind of pressure. So I think, you know, if you're ready for that and you put the time in preparing for that, then it can be done safely, and, you know, you can find a way. When you're not, though, I think it becomes really apparent, and it's not going to be fun, you know. So
yeah, maybe the kids will start having another category, like a no-tech descent. Yeah, let's go do a no-tech descent.
What's that mean?
No phone, no drone, nothing that gets plugged in.
Yeah.
Just do it no-tech.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to check the GPS, right? Like, okay, where's our blue dot? You know, like you're saying in the Tsangpo, how there's, you know, no way to check where the blue dot was.
No, in my generation, we didn't have that. So, you know, I don't think of that. I don't think of those options, the GPS. And I think when you really need them, you really need them. And if they can save a life or an injured person, that's so critical. But maybe just to have them in case something really happens like that and you need an evacuation that's serious. Besides that, you know, I hate to be in the middle of the Stikine and get a call from a wrong number, someone looking for the price of my house that I don't have. You know, can't imagine. That would be like, that's why, yeah. So I like the element when you're out there and society can't touch you. Nothing can, right?
I think that's going to be a thing, right? A no-tech descent. I mean, you think about going down the Middle Kings with your buddies. It's like, yeah, let's do a no-tech. Let's not bring any cell phones because you don't want to get some text of your girlfriend all mad at you, halfway down. It's like, what good did that do, really?
Right?
I had that in Baja, been like a week without cell service with my buddy. Get back to service, calls girlfriend, she's yelling at him for an hour on the phone, Dude,
oh man,
your phone didn't get service.
I mean, that's the thing. You escape to the land of solitude, and that's the best part. So
yeah.
I bet it gets more and hard to find, right? Now the cell phones have the satellite thing, so if you can see the sky, you get reception, right? Yeah. Again, when somebody's hurt or life's on the line, those are great tools, but if you could just not use them unless that was happening, I think that would be a good way to go.
Yeah, the sat phone evac is definitely a good lifeline to have.
With a spot thing, I've never used it.
Well, now the cell phone does it, right? You don't need a spot anymore because the iPhone just has it built right in.
Really? Huh. Don't want to accidentally hit the button, do you?
No. Right.
Flying in for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it has where you can text out. So if someone else is also on an iPhone or whatnot, you can just text directly anything. So you could text any numbers. It's not just like the emergency.
Huh. Yeah. All those things add layers of commitment, and when you don't have them, layers of fear and layers of, are we going to get out of here?
No.
But, yeah, I'm so grateful. I feel really lucky. Feel really lucky that the river trips were so good. Yeah.
Made for a good life. I don't know. Ever since saw the GoFundMe for your cancer thing last year, you find yourself retrospecting life much since then? Does that kind of scare you into thinking about things a little?
You're never gonna know how you're gonna react when you get news like that. But surprisingly, I was pretty calm. I was calm. I think it's because I had really got to do a lot of my dreams, and I felt very content with that part of, and that gave me a lot of peace. And in the end, it's just another big rapid. I don't really think about it too much. However, it's real. But the memories that I have, especially from the kayaking days and all that, those will carry me. Yeah. So
sounds like you looked back a little bit more like, yeah, I crushed it. Did my part to savor being a human on planet Earth, right? It's like this. I don't know. Now that I'm getting middle aged, it's like, just have this one shot at the greatest thing in the universe. Being a human on planet Earth is like paradise. And I mean, we talk about heaven. I don't know what place is more heavenly than this Earth. It is that still yin, half good, half bad. But it's just like, I don't know. And it's what we get as far as we know.
Well, and I think too, I mean, if anything, I think I should have done a lot more. I should have done a lot more. But you can only do so much, life is complex, so you can't necessarily do everything. But if you can just have some great days, you feel like you're in that kind of greatness, experiencing that light of greatness, and forming these profound memories, then That's powerful stuff. That's powerful stuff, you know. So
you really gotta savor. I find even in the mountains, right? The summer's so short that it's like you gotta savor each day. So I'm like, when I've got a free day, I go for a bike ride, then go kayak, ride the shuttle, then go golf, then go for like a sunset hike. I'm like, okay, I did all right today, you know?
yeah, yeah. And I especially think it's important to do it in your late teens and 20s when your body is just like primed. And I guess some 30s, but I mean, when you can really go out and paddle 8 hours a day, every day, so that you're in such amazing shape that you can go do those really high end trips, right?
And you can be in that shape, right? At any age. I think a lot of, at least I fell out of that shape wrong time because I didn't have that drive of the nervousness of the kayaking, right? Or these things that really had you, and all of a sudden life was like where I didn't need to not have 4 beers because I was going to go do something in the morning, right? And it's like when you lose that, it you slump. You see a lot of people like in the ski world, the local legends in the ski towns, right? They get to that mid-30s and turn into the local drunks in the town, and it's a standard. But then I figured out later. I stopped drinking, but also just figured I realized you can get in amazing shape even when you're older, right? And start to at least like extend it some,
Yeah, no, I see that. My case, it was injuries, and I think when injuries through your life get to a certain point, it's just, it's hard to maintain. If you have a shoulder that's really just, struggling, then it's just not what it was. Yeah.
Is that most of your injuries? Both shoulders?
Back and shoulder. Yeah. I mean, shoot. About 25 on, I rolled 99% of the time just on my strong shoulder side, and just to keep it from being the weaker one being exposed. And I would do it if I absolutely had to, like against a wall or something. But yeah, and back, when you start blowing out disc and stuff, it's hard to carry a kayak up a mountain, and you pay for it. So anyway, I don't know. I think it's important though to lift weights and get as strong as you can, and that allows.
It's interesting, right? When you're going and you're putting on these rivers, right? And you're so nervous, and you're never 100%, right? There's always that thing like the shoulder, something's off, and it's like, Rumsfeld had this quote once during that whole Iraq war when they're blowing up the things or whatever, and he said, "You go to war with the army you have, not the army you wish you had."
I remember that.
I think about that all the time now when I'm like, don't have the right things, don't have it. I'm like, okay.
Lots of Advil, ibuprofen, or something.
The shoulders, everyone's fights shoulders and backs, right? My back's messed up. I've had two surgeries on each shoulder. One the last time, both at once on the Bosch Cows at the very end there in Siberia. Just both at once, and then still had a day.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a fan of surgery. I just didn't know. I don't know. Didn't know if it would really help much, but yeah. I'm feeling pretty good now. I go out and paddle, class 3, 4, play boat occasionally, and that's fun, and I'm happy with that. Yeah. And I went over the North Fork a week ago, and I didn't really feel like I needed to jump on it. But you were speaking earlier how things change and don't change, and that's one thing I do like. The river doesn't seem to change. The rapids might change here and there, but when you're putting a human against it, the river is still pretty in charge, right? And I don't think it's changed much in that way. Even 40 years I've been around, or 30 35, I've been around the North Fork, and the other day when I was there, I mean, it was the same. It was the same vibe, same feel, same smells. You know,
same dirt bags. A new generation of dirt bags hanging at the boat ramp below the confluence.
Right.
Think how many people you've met there over the years.
Right.
Parking lot.
Yeah. Good years. The river does that.
And I think the river, people who really spend a lot of time in the river, I think the unique thing is how you have to relent to it when you pull in. You know, can't think of any other sport, like unless you were like in an avalanche or mini avalanche skiing or something, where it's just like Gravere said in his, is like, yeah, there's no brakes. That's what I tell people, you know, once you pull out, no brakes.
Not static, yeah.
It really is wild how you have to just work with that energy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's different than mountaineering in that way, right? The static part and that's, you know, I have so much respect for mountaineers, and the danger is probably higher than kayaking. But that non-static nature, a lot of mountaineers just don't want to kayak because they think it's just, you can't just stop. You know, of course you can't in an avalanche either, but yeah, no, that's trying to go out there and it be easy is I mean, even though it's hard, you want it to feel easier as you do it, right? I mean, you don't want to be scrambling the whole way down. So I think there's a lot of rewards in that.
But it's also the kind of sport where you take some time off. You feel like you don't know how to do it. You know, it's not like skiing. I mean, you could not ski for 10 years and still be right there. You know, with kayaking, you take 10 years off.
Yeah. Kayaking's a lot more aerobic too than people realize. You know, when you're out of shape, and you're breathing hard and trying to do hard moves and all that, that's not good. And get behind. And
I guess the other really unique thing is just the places it takes you. I mean, when you get on that mission of seeking these places, I mean, you've seen so much on that quest.
Yeah, we were talking about it being a vessel, kind of a vessel poured into adventure, and just exploration, I think, is such a great part of it. You know, for me, I think that's probably been the prime motivation, just the exploration of it. And I think that's in our humanity to want to go into places that maybe people haven't got to go into, and a lot of river canyons that are like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen Selznick as a few years ago. I hadn't seen him in a while, and bumped in and chatting. And somebody was like, is that like just the sport we were really into, or was that a spirit quest, you know? Because it didn't just feel like we were just doing some fun recreational sport there.
The TGR boys?
Yeah. Well, I grew up
with,
Selz, since we were kids.
Oh, nice.
These guys. So at 15, 14, you know, we got into kayaking together and doing all that. So it was just each step of, you know, close calls that makes you more excited to find the next close call.
Yeah. It's been a great, I mean, just that era, the 90s, the 80s and 90s was such a great era because there'd been some, you know, those that had gone before us that really raised the bar. And then we also had some better technology, kind of allowed you to put some things together and do some things that hadn't been done. But it's just a small thing in this universe, but it's been really great. You know?
Yeah.
It's been great.
Good way to spend time as a human on planet Earth is going all around planet Earth to the most amazing places on Earth.
I mean, yeah. And boy, once you get the bug, it's hard to get off it. And, you know, a lot of it's just deciding your priorities and what you want to do and making it happen one step in front of the other and getting there. Right. And it doesn't take you don't have to be rich. You don't have to have all those things. You just have to put your resources and energy into that. And as you said, the dirtbag kayakers, right? They're going to Chile and Africa, all around the world.
Yeah, it's interesting about once you get that bug, you are just hooked, and it's almost the only way to get off it is to get scared off it. Right? It's almost just pretty parallel to drugs, right? I mean, you're hooked and you ain't getting off until you get scared so straight that you drop it.
Yeah. Yeah. In my case, like I said, I just couldn't physically keep up with it. Um, just the nature of my injuries. And I mean, I've lost, 20 plus friends. So there's a time too that starts kind of adding up on you. And there's other things in life that are great too. I mean, I think it's good to do more than just one thing. There's a lot of great things you can do, and so um, kayaking isn't just, everything. There's certainly so many other things that are worth putting your time into, but it's definitely a special thing that if you're somehow comes into your path, just the way it happened. Didn't see it coming.
Yeah. There's so many parts of being a human to savor. I've gotten to the point where I want to just savor every part of being human. I don't care if it's golfing or hunting or whatever, biking, flying, and any sport. And I don't even care if it's like going to Las Vegas. I'm like, sure, I'd like savor being in Las Vegas for a couple of days. I don't even gamble or drink. It's like, this is great. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, I feel like the dirtbag thing too. I don't know. Growing up in a ski town, it was really those were who we looked up to, right? The dirtbags. Not the people driving the Porsches or whatever. And I almost feel like that gets so ingrained, that you start to miss out on other stuff if by just by that being such a pedestal.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know people that, man, that's what they do. They're going to do that one activity their whole life, and that's pretty much all they do, and that's okay. Those people are truly taken by it. I was a skier too and skied moguls, and that was a huge passion, but then it got to a point where it was like, okay, I can do this. I want to do some other things. And so,
but yeah, what else but kayaking would take you to all those places, right? Just all over to all those amazing, just even the little random villages you go to in Nepal just on the way, and all those experiences, right? And just in Nepal, it's like you've got a train of kids following you every village you go to, and then you're putting in the river. There's like 20 kids all around you jumping on you.
Yeah, it's special. It is special. I think about those things all the time. Those trips, and good memories for sure. It's good to be by the river. I found the closer I stay near the river, life seems to be better. Whatever that means. It's just it's a good teacher and good people.
Yeah, it really is. All of nature makes you feel good, but there's a special power in the river.
Yeah. It's part of it. It's part of us. Part of it.
Well, you got any plans coming up? Some photography missions?
Well, we're gonna go get the next world record here pretty soon. Waterfall, right? No, I'm teasing you. I don't know. I talk about it with some of these waterfall runners, but we'll see. I'm just like, taking it a day at a time, and maybe trying to do a kind of a coffee table book of the expeditions over the years and the photography, and get that stuff kind of organized, and just trying to get my health as good as I can, and really enjoying my friendships and people in my life I care a lot about, and those things, and it's a pretty good place. Yeah.
Right on. That's cool. You get to be just among all that energy in White Salmon and just all that youthful spirit on the river.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of stoke out here. I would like to learn how to paraglide, actually. A lot of these kayakers do that around here, It's pretty amazing. So maybe I should do that. Because that's the one you don't have to be, you can have some injuries and do that, I think. Floating up there.
Yeah, and it's just gorgeous, right? Yeah, and one called Evan Garcia.
Exactly, yeah.
Be rolling, man.
Yeah.
I'm stoked to get you up there, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And there's, definitely committing. Definitely adventure.
And you're riding the currents too, right? I mean, it's you're still riding currents of the air.
Yeah. Yeah, Lane Jake.
So you can kind of see how it flows. Like, I think I've had so many kayakers that get into, and maybe partially because you can imagine how you can really visualize how that wind's hitting the mountain and going up, and how it's creating the hole on the backside.
Right.
So I think
it's the same.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's the same, yeah. Fluid dynamics or aerodynamics, yeah. It is. Same patterns. But, boy, you got gravity. You got to keep it together. I mean, it's relying on your gear a lot, it seems like to me, but I don't know a ton about it. But it just seems pretty awesome.
The view sure seems worth it alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Evan will hike up Mount Hood and fly off it and make it almost home. Pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right on, man.
Well, good.
It's been such a pleasure.
Good talking to you, and thanks for stirring up some of these memories. I always enjoy reliving them.
Yeah, that was some amazing history right there. That was true pleasure to get to see through. And say anyone who's listened this long, then the GoFundMe from Charlie, even if you just search in Google GoFundMe Charlie Munsey, it comes up. I'll put the link in the thing, but he gave a lot to the sport, so go on there, I'd say, and pay back for all that work to get those photos. Think about how much went into that, and just gosh, I mean, can you imagine just how much time went into that pursuit?
Well, I have to say, when people come up to me and tell me that, the photographs, whatever, has inspired them and maybe changed their course or whatever, that's the best. That's really great when you get that. So if I can bring stuff back and share and inspire other people, I mean, that's pretty win-win. And thanks for bringing that up. And it's been great talking to you, and I'll be here.
Likewise, brother. That was awesome, and best of everything to you. We're sending good energy your way.
Thanks, Nick. I'll catch up with you later.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.
Everybody's finding their own way, yeah. And days feel like years these days. And and I've adjusted to the hustle, but sometimes it gets me flustered. Feel like I've been running uphill with no time to recover. Take a breath, slow down, forget the rat race, cause chances are my obligations can wait. But there's a place that always calms me down, beyond the shuffle of the crowds, where the lost can be found.
I've been hiking in my boots, I've been searching for some truth, found it far beyond the blink of the city lights. I've been falling out of touch with the world that has become, so I stepped outside and left it all behind, towards wild places.
Out here where the creeks run free,
Wild places.
you can find a little piece of peace.
Wild places.
Beneath the treetops and mountain skies,
Wild
where the
places.
world is allowed to thrive.
Wild places.
Where the beasts roam free and far,
Wild places.
where the stars still pierce the dark.
Wild places.
Take me back to the place it began,
Wild
to the
places.
same place where it ends.
It's been a long time that I've been gone, but I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
We live so close together, yet never felt more separate. Imprisoned in our cell phones, they got us locked up in them. And no question, I've been caught in the tide too. A fiend for these screens, like gold for the fools. But I know what to do to free myself from these shackles. The path less traveled takes me back to where these thoughts can unravel. Like a river when it whispers, like a leaf when it falls. If you listen to the stillness, you can still hear the call.
I've been hiking in my boots, I've been searching for some truth, found it far beyond the blink of the city lights. I've been falling out of touch with the world that has become, so I stepped outside and left it all behind, towards wild places.
Out here where the creeks run free,
Wild places.
you can find a little piece of peace.
Wild places.
Beneath the treetops and mountain skies,
Wild
where the
places.
world is allowed to thrive.
Wild places.
Where the beasts roam free and far,
Wild places.
where the stars still pierce the dark.
Wild places.
Take me back to the place it began,
Wild
to the
places.
same place where it ends.
It's been a long time that I've been gone, but I'm coming home. I'm coming home.
I reckon it's out here, surrounded by the beyond, that I have learned the most about the world, and even more about myself. Above all else, it has taught me humility. I have discovered that I will never be a conqueror of mountains or a tamer of rivers, for I do not own this wilderness, but I can say that I will always belong to it.